What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's daily market recap. It's Friday. We made it to the end of the week, and now there are only 5 days left for the month of August. This month has been a grind. It's been slow. Today, just the same as every other day this week, did not hit my hot market daily goal, but came in with the cold market daily goal just over $5,000. $5,000 a day is $1 million a year, so I can't complain about that. Although, when you set the goal of $1 million for the month, $5,000 days don't cut it. But that's all right. Look, there's nothing that I can do about this. When the market's hot, I'll step up and I'll capitalize. And when it's cold, I can do two things. I can either trade aggressively and take big losses, or take my foot off the gas and just chip away with small winners. And that's what I got today. So when I first sat down this morning, the scan was very slow. Not surprising. It's Friday. It's been a slow week. It's worth noting that a lot of these companies pay close attention to the market cycles. Here's an example. Remember when we were having all of those headlines about crypto treasury? Have you seen even one of those headlines in the last week and a half? They've gone quiet. Why? Because companies now recognize that traders aren't buying up this headline. But when traders were buying up stocks, putting out that headline, all of a sudden you had dozens of small cap companies putting out the same headline. So some of them are very strategic about putting out headlines that are jumping on the current theme to try to boost their stock price. It's got to be like a game for them. So right now is not the best time for a company to put out a big headline when it's like crickets. Everyone's just being really quiet, sort of patient and sitting on the sidelines. So now my guess is that a lot of these companies are holding back on putting out headlines, but when things start to pick up, we go into the next hot cycle, and maybe it'll be AI or who knows what that, catalyst will be. We'll see all of those same companies put out similar headlines based on that theme. So this morning when I first sat down, really didn't have much to work with, but EIQ is the stock I made the most money on. It's also the stock that's up the most on the day at 194% right now, with over 100 million shares of volume. Lower priced, move started after hours. It's similar to APM and THAR, which were stocks that made bigger moves during the week. APM here, which was grinding up yesterday, and then THAR, which made the move up the day before. So EIQ was kind of today's similarly low-priced grinding stock. And the only trade that I took on it was right in here. Right here, it finally started to break away and squeeze up. And so I jumped in it on that move with the best exit at just under $1.48. So it was a decent trade, $2,585.32, put me on the leaderboard in the green. So with that first trade, I got a small cushion. And the second trade of the day was ELAB. ELAB is a stock that popped up on the scan, pulled back, and then popped up a second time with no news. It pulls back here, and I jumped in right here for that next leg higher, made $1,000 on it. It's not a lot. Biggest position was 7,500 shares, so like 12 cents a share, not a huge win, but got me up to about 4,000 on the day. So I'm sitting there in the green when all of a sudden, what hits the scanner? ZNB. I'm not familiar with the stock, but I pull it up, and in an instant, this was very interesting. I pull up the level 2, it's showing $2.99, $3 on the ask, and the next price above that on the level 2 was $5.44. And I was like, wow. So sometimes when you see that, so what that looks like essentially is $2.40, and then the next price is $5.44. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I said, this is going to be pretty high risk, but I'm going to take a stab at it. So I took a starter position at $3. I added it $3.50, and it goes right here up to a high of $4.50. It then dips down. I bought the dip, and we get a squeeze up to $5, all the way up to $5.50, and a top right there of $5.70. It pulls back. I added back right here, and I lost on the add back. And then I added back one more time on this dip. So here's the way I trade it. So I had this top right here, which I lost on, and then I tried it again right here, and I lost a little bit more, but these were small losses. They weren't big. And then right here, I was like, honestly, at this point, I'm not sure if this is going to work. I'm just going to give it a second. It dips down here. I bought the dip at 5, and then it flushes all the way down to 4. And I lost almost $2,000 off the top. So and it just kept going lower. It was unbelievable. I mean, it's really kind of remarkable how much lower this one went. So it just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. So, this is a stock that for whatever reason just had a ton of selling pressure. And I found that to be, a bit disappointing. So, it's just one of these things. I mean, we're in a market where we've been seeing hardly any moves. And then finally we see something that moves and it ends up giving us a round trip, basically. So it goes from 250 up to 6 and then back to 230. So it just wasn't able to hold up. All right, so ended up with only $1,500 on that one. So really not much at the end of the day. And that puts me at 5,000 on the day. It's a green day. I really can't complain, but it's hard. It's hard to be patient because this week has been very slow. And, I guess it's one of these things that you just gotta try to muster up the strength to get through it and know that when the market picks back up, all of a sudden, what I was looking at on this stock, just for example, on the daily, was that it had gap fill up to 1388. And, in the hot market, we all of a sudden see those moves where it goes 6, 7, 8, pulls back up to 10, up to 12, boom, gap fill. And it'll be really exciting when we start seeing that action again. I can't wait for it, but I have to wait for it. And, you've got to trade the market you're in. And on this one, I got a little too aggressive. And then I was really disappointed that it sold off so hard. And just the amount of selling was like, it almost, this is the thing where it just kind of didn't make sense. The float on this is super low. And yet these candles right here were practically straight selling. It's like 1 million shares of volume just selling. I mean, there were some buying, but it was obviously predominantly and heavily on the sell side. So it felt like there was just millions of shares of selling volume. And I'm like, how is that possible? Once again, when the float shows 600,000 shares, I just can't get my head around how you could have this much selling. And we were seeing sell orders, 90,000 share sell orders, pushing the stock down. And then that sell order would go through, and then there'd be another sell order, 50,000 shares. I mean, we saw hundreds of thousands of shares of individual sell orders. It defies logic unless the company is selling shares or the company had, has issued warrants and someone, which does happen. A lot of these companies do sell warrants. And the way the warrants work is that the company, the buyer can exercise those warrants, which means they own the stock at a price, whatever, the price of the strike of the warrants are, and then they can sell them on the open market. So all of a sudden, they basically get shares printed to them, and now they could just sell. So whatever the case is, this always makes me feel as a retail trader like, we're kind of suckers, and it's the insiders, the institutions that are just printing millions of dollars sometimes on days like this. And meanwhile, we're struggling, to scrounge up maybe $1,500 of profit, or, worse, we're in the red, 10, 15, 25,000 or more, trying to jump in something like this for the continuation higher and then huge rejection. So, this is the time to batten down the hatches and be more conservative. I do struggle with that a little bit. I am fighting that impulse and urge to just, get stubborn, and that's a tough one. It's really tough. So look, this is just the market that we've got to get through, and we've got 5 more days for the month of August, and then August will be in the history books, and we're going to go into September. The first week of September, we'll have the Labor Day holiday, so it'll be a little bit slow that first week. And typically, getting back into September, this is when markets start to pick up a little bit more. We do have some economic news that's going to continue to be a factor with interest rates and things like that. The S&P 500 is up a fair amount, as you can see right here. But in spite of that, the big picture is that the market is, dealing with some uncertainty around what's going to happen with inflation, with the tariffs, and, when will the Federal Reserve reduce the interest rates, and, what's up with the housing market. And, there's just some of these big kind of questions that are lingering. And the problem right now when you're in a market that's been kind of, doing this slow grind, is that when you get a little fear, you get this quick drop, like what we got right there. And then slow grind. And then, so it's like, 10 days up and then one day gives it all back. And then another 10 days up and then one day gives it all back. So as long as we keep having those 10 days up, it's okay. But when you start getting a sustained, multi-week pullback, then, right there, you gave back, basically a year of growth in the market gone in a month, right? So, I mean, that's like 12 steps forward and then a massive step all the way back. So that's a challenge that we have to contend with a little bit. And it's the challenge of being in a hot market. So day to day, the overall market, we can have a little bit of a tailwind, but then you have those moments where all of a sudden things, start to look a little scary and people get spooked. Of course, it would have been nice if we had had a big pop in the market like this earlier in the week. To have it on a Friday towards the end of the week when traders are throwing in the towel doesn't really do us a lot of good. But that's all right. It is what it is. And with that, I'll be back at it bright and early on Monday morning, streaming at 7 a.m. So I'll see you guys then. I hope you have a great weekend. I've got some uploads that are going to come to the channel over the weekend, so make sure you check them out. And if you're not already subscribed, I hope you hit that subscribe button. I hope you hit the thumbs up if you enjoy these episodes. And a reminder, as always, trading is risky. My results aren't typical, and there's no guarantee you'll find success, whether you trade with me or you learn on your own. So please manage your risk, take it slow, and I'll see you guys on Monday.